Excellent. So I hope that I'm audible. Team, thank you very much for joining. I'm seeing 250 or so DX team members on. This is the first time that I presume many organizations will be aspiring to see what we are doing for the first time within the team, do a virtual session, off-sites and team get-togethers to get the knowledge quotient up has been, I think, the norm in the past. But obviously, everything has changed. We ourselves are the digital business, and I'm sure it is only deserving that we do it for ourselves. Sudip, thank you very much for making time. The team has been looking forward to this. This is our opportunity to really get together, have shared learning, and ensure that we have a common understanding of where we are going. So over to you, Sudip.
Thank you so much, Paul. Again, I share the excitement, and I'm very, very thrilled that DX has taken the lead in showing the rest of the organization, in some ways, possibly the industry as well, on how we come together in these difficult times. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity I'm getting to share some of the thoughts on where the organization is headed, and also the expectations that Paul, the leadership of DX have from the group, given the direction that the larger organization is headed towards. I'll start off with a bit of a macro picture on how the industry is shaping up. Talk to you all about where the company itself, how it has performed over the first few months of this financial year, which is right in the heart of the COVID pandemic. And then I also would want to take this opportunity to share some of my own, if you may, aspirations, expectations from this group that I'm getting a chance to address. I do not have to tell you about what we are going through. It is an unprecedented event, and it is something which none of us could have potentially anticipated. It is in this context, as the industry grappled with this pandemic and came out of it, in some ways, the first quarter results were a reasonable view or a peek into how different companies had gone ahead and conducted themselves. There's a larger, if you may, macro environment, and the macro environment, while the pandemic has been secular in terms of the disruption all around, some industries have been disrupted more than others. You look at the aerospace and defense industry, you would find that that's really taken a bit of a body blow, if you may. Travel and hospitality, as we all know, is also part of a similar challenging environment. And then as you sort of move towards high tech, the blow actually has been in some ways a blessing in disguise. And you really can't anticipate it. And hence certain companies in the industry who had more of a flavor towards the aerospace or defense, travel, hospitality, they've really, really been hurt. I mean, you're talking of a degrowth quarter on quarter of between 10 to 15%. Look at a Cyient, you look at a Quest. I mean, these are good companies, but they have really been hurt. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have organizations who serendipitously had more of a high-tech footprint, and they have therefore benefited from that uptick in the high tech that is a client's business. And you have companies like EPAM and others that have shown growth quarter on quarter of 15% in Q1. That narrative is important. It allows us to get a view as how the different industry segments are moving. But for me, what is, in my opinion, a more acute test is how did companies go ahead and shore up on the operational discipline, which gets reflected in the bottom line. Because that is in the hands of the organization itself. And over there, you'll find that the companies which we knew were well-run organizations, and I'm talking mid-tier services companies, some of them have done well, others not so well. So you look at an LTI, you look at an Emphasis, they have gone ahead and done well, whereas other organizations, you know, be it a Zensar or others, they have truly taken a backseat in this flush. Why this commentary is important, at least why I believe it is important for us, is because it gives us a view as to how we are faring compared to the rest of the industry. And from that perspective, if I were to go take the ITC Infotech view, I would give ourselves very solid marks. From a growth top line perspective, yes, we did have degrowth. So we are not in the EPAM or the persistent, if you may, category. We had degrowth of around 2% on actual currency and 4% on constant currency, which puts us in the top 25% or the top quartile in terms of top line growth. But on the bottom line, we have really managed to hold on and in fact give ourselves a solid foundation for the rest of the year. And that came on the back of a lot of operational discipline that has been has slowly become, I would put it, the DNA, or is slowly becoming in the very DNA of the organization. It's an important aspect, as I said, and I keep sharing, with the leadership team, which I'd like to share with all of you, is it's not that our aspiration is to be the most profitable company out there in the mid-tier services organization, but both the top line and the growth in the top line gives, in my mind, an indicator about how differentiated you are in the market. And the bottom line gives a view of how disciplined and solid you are on execution. And both of these together are the hallmark of a company that will stand the test of time, a company that is respected, a company that sort of takes things forward to the next level, or as we call it, win in the weight category that you have. Within the business parameters, there is another aspect which I would definitely want to take this opportunity to highlight, is that when we got into this pandemic towards the middle of March, our primary North Star, as I keep calling it, was that we have to keep everyone safe, healthy. I think that's, if I may, non-compromisable. I mean, there is no two ways about that. At the same time, we spoke about getting ourselves onto a more disciplined rigor, which is what I just spoke to you about, that is getting reflected in the numbers, in the bottom line numbers, to talk about the operational discipline and excellence. The other two aspects that we did not, and I'm very thankful to everyone in the organization, is that we did not just start going ahead and playing the defensive game. And many of us who follow cricket, you get into a defensive mode, even the good, juicy half volleys or the full tosses, you will still pat back because you get into a defensive mindset. Very consciously, and it's a difficult task, we decided that we will continue to stay invested in building differentiation and driving growth in these difficult times, because at the end of the, like everything in life, the good times and the bad times, and they're just sort of two sides of the coin, and it's a cycle. It's a bad, unfortunate cycle that the world is going through, each one of us. But this will pass. What is always important is when this passes, will we as an organization be stronger at the end of it compared to where we were when we entered it? And for me, that whether you're stronger, better, yes, there are business metrics, of course, but for me, the key element, the most critical element, is if we as an organization start aspiring and believing that we can, will compete with anybody out there on some of our identified capabilities and focus areas and beat any competition. See, I've said this in a few of the town halls. While many of you, who I worked closely with, I think all of you sort of realize that I'm quite paranoid when it comes to business metrics and figures, because that is how, in my mind, you really show progress. But for me, the true test of whether we as an organization and I as a leader am able to make a difference is if we all can go and say that in this particular capability, when it comes to digital, in this space, trade marketing, you bring anyone out there in the market. And we as ITC Infotech will go ahead and clearly demonstrate why our value proposition is superior, and therefore we will win the deal. And it's not about Paul or Shashwat, or DC or Amitav, Kishan, Mohan. It's not about them or me going ahead and telling you guys, you got to do it, you got to do it. It is about each one of us believing that we are really good. That's what I aspire for us. Because if you get that going, then it is just an extremely positive cycle which comes in. It's not about going ahead and, the numbers happen. You don't have to really go ahead and grate it out in the scheme of things. And I think what has happened, given the way, I'm very grateful for that, we've conducted ourselves. What I was, if I were to, give you a perspective on, as many of you might know, I got a chance to join ITC Infotech January of 19, which is now a year and a half back. In my mind, I've always believed that it's a sort of a 3-year cycle, in which I get a chance to know the organization gets a chance to look at it directionally where we are going. The second year, we have the structure, the strategy. We have Paul over here and DX. We've got a set of leaders who we all believe in very strongly, and that establishes the core. And year 3 is when you sort of catapult out into the orbit which you believe you can. And I was at least aspiring for is that by the end of this financial year that we are in, we would have solidified our whole strategy, structure, thought process, and we would be in the process of getting more confident about our ability to differentiate and win against everyone. So next financial year, that is FY 21-22, would be the year when we would typically be the company who can beat anybody in our identified segments. I think what's happened is because of the way all of us, you have conducted yourselves, I feel that we have gone ahead and crashed the timeline. You look at some of the deals that are in play. I do not want to tempt fate. I'm sorry, I'm very superstitious in that way. But if you look at some of the deals which are not just being won against competition, but the way they are getting fulfilled and how they are getting delivered. Never in the history of ITC Infotech have we been in this position, where we have close to 10 deals at an organization level, which are ranging from 50 people increase headcount to 250 people. Annuity revenues extremely close to closure in our favor or already closed. It has never happened that we have at an organization level not just had a pipeline of this magnitude, but actually have the deals of this size and scale. And for me, as we were having a discussion last night within the leadership team, it's not that it happened by chance. See, there is always luck in life. I'm the first one to admit that. I've benefited significantly from it in my career, in my life. But you know, as I think I keep telling my kids this, you know, luck knocks on every door, but she should find you working hard. I believe that the hard work that has gone in over a period of time since March, in terms of constructing, well, before conceiving, imagining the deals, following through on it, not getting deflated by many things that have just fallen on the wayside. I know the sort of conversations, many conversations that did not see the light of day in the DX scenario, and yet to stay committed directionally, and then to take it forward to the next level and be at this stage where we are in a position where, from an organization point of view, we could not be in a better place. I feel very proud of the team that made it happen. And that gives me confidence that what I had at least expected to be done by February, March next year, we have crashed it by 6 months to August, September. What does it mean? This is confidence or comfort. I think, first of all, I hope that this particular confidence is not resident only at a certain level of the organization. I hope each one of us does get a view on where the organization is headed, how the organization is headed in a different orbit with a different slope as compared to how things were even a year back. That, I hope, is a message that we are able to share. These are the forums that allow me to share it, Paul to share it. Paul will obviously get into a lot of detail basis the strategy that he has put in place for DX. But that confidence to seep right into each and every one of us is a very important and a very positive offshoot of what has taken place over the past 6 months. The second, this is Narayan Murthy used to say this. He said 1 is a point, 2 is a line, 3 is a coincidence, 4 is a trend. So we've done well because of all the work that happened May, June, July. And we now had in the phase where we have to go ahead and execute very well, work as one team with a talent management team, and ensure that the project program is set up. As all of us know, the foundation is set up for growth. There aren't any ambers or reds in terms of delivery, initial teething issues. We set it up. That's one, if you may. But at the same time, because it's one is a point, and also the fact that in our industry, it takes 3 to 6 months to really take it on to the, to have the results showing. We have to start thinking about what next. How do we go ahead and use this momentum, use this confidence to sow the seeds which will allow us to be even more differentiated and soar even higher come February, March next year. And the cycle never stops. The cycle will never go ahead and stop. We will always be in the cycle. That is, life, if you may. Nothing about business. It's just life. You've got to keep on investing today, learn, stay confident, shrug off failures, move to the next layer. Then if we do it, what we invest now is going to find results in February, March, giving us even more confidence that we are now at 2, giving us confidence in February, March to invest, which will yield results in August, September next year. And it is in this context that as you sow the seeds for the future, that the DX and where the journey that the digital experience team has started off is a very integral, I would go ahead and say, part of ITC Infotech's future. I don't have to tell you guys, that digital data analytics, frankly, all the buzzwords which are going around not in our industry alone. Frankly, if you were to go and talk, and as Mr. Puri had addressed us in the town hall back in January, you'll remember that at every CXO level, and he's a chairman of $11 billion conglomerate, and in some ways represents what the CXOs of practically every Fortune 500 or G2K company is talking about, is that digital data insights are really the future for their own business. And we find, as technology services providers, we find ourselves in a position where we are in some ways the owners of the technology. The keys to the kingdom are with us, and if I can double click, are with you guys in the DX team. Never, in my opinion, has it been a more attractive time to be part of a given set of technologies than now. See, why I say that is, I understand, and all of you are experts here, it is 4 or 5 years back that digital really started in some ways gaining ground as a buzzword. In the Gartner cycle, it was there. Before that, 2014, 15, Accenture and others started really talking about. But it takes time to mature and solidify. The next 3 to 5 years is a place where, if there is a right value proposition from the client point of view on the digital space, people at the highest level of the clients will be willing to listen to it. And the ability for us as technology services provider to really pivot and make an impact on business through the digital, the DX channel, it cannot be more pronounced than what it is now. And therefore, I am very excited about the direction that the DX team is taking under Paul. I don't know to what extent are you all aware of it. Paul joined us, I think it was 31st of December, Paul, if I'm not mistaken. And beginning of January itself, there was, Mr. Puri, our chairman, he spoke about a data strategy, a digital strategy for ITC as a group level. And then Paul, working along with some of the leaders in DX, came up with this extremely clear. The clarity is very important in strategy. Otherwise, it's just buzzwords. The clarity of thought with which what was presented back to Mr. Puri by Paul stood out for me, because digital is such a, if I may, amorphous and possibly abused word as well. It can mean so many different things, but to contextualize it to a business problem and to solve real business issues, which align so fundamentally with what ITC Infotech has traditionally over the last 20 years stood for, which is to provide business-friendly solutions. I think that clarity of thought really hit me hard. And I knew that we are on to something great. And that clarity of thought is what I am increasingly seeing as I get an opportunity to work with many of the leaders in the DX space and interact in front of the client representing the DX space. It is the way in which, say, the platforms of intelligence construct is such a beautiful template, which allows you to construct everything from the views of the client and give real insights back. In some ways, neutral to the technology stack, at the same time leveraging technology. It is a great template that our own data CX background and a rich background, and then using that as a raw material, pivots it into a direction which is far more business savvy. It is far more palatable and impactful from the client point of view. A year, 18 months back, I think data and digital have been, and CX have been traditionally, they've seen a lot of different avatars within our organization. But this storyline of stitching together this DX in which you have a GTM headed by Devashish, and to have the entire delivery organization rolling into Shashwat, building specific capability hooks and differentiators that impact our client. That storyline is a very mature storyline, a storyline that will stands the test of any test that a client or an analyst might want to put it through. So directionally, strategically, there is clarity, simplicity, which in my mind is a huge virtue, consistency, where we want to go to. There are elements within data where we had some work to do related to getting a more stronger operational rigor. I noticed that, which has come in with Amitav, going ahead along with Shashwat Mohan, driving that, which I'm sure a lot of you who are going and contributing in that direction. Because, vision without execution is frankly not going to really hold on to. You can't really do too much. But I think that with an operational rigor, with the clarity of thought, with the focus on a finite number of accounts, directionally DX is absolutely perfectly placed to be that engine that ITC Infotech needs to have as it makes a practice of going ahead and beating competition. At the end of this financial year, I feel, if you were to ask me to hazard a guess, we have it in us to reach out and be the top quartile in terms of top line and bottom line growth in mid-tier IT services company by the end of the year. And that will be phenomenal. And for that, you guys have earned the right and are very well placed to be a primary engine in that journey. So I have a lot of expectations from you all to be the growth engine, not because I am saying digital drives everything, so on and so forth, but because I have seen it at work. I have seen how differentiated your capabilities are. I have seen how well the vision comes together. And now I am very confident about the operational rigor that you all have put in place. So my aspirations is, as I keep telling the DX delivery team, is don't tell me about your plan. Not because the plan doesn't matter, but because I know that you guys can do so much more because of the vision, the execution, the leadership team, and each one of you. That's my expectation from you. I'm very excited for ITC Infotech, and I'm very, very thankful and excited that the DX team is driving us in that direction. That's what I wanted to say. I thought I'm already 2 minutes over. I'm sorry, Paul.
No, wonderful. Very good to hear this from you, Sudip. I'm sure the team got those messages so clearly. What came out to me, team, I hope you took away these messages. Right time to be in digital, the right work being done to set us in the right direction. A lot of work ahead. We need to get to the next level. Sudip is saying aspire to be the best in the industry in a few chosen areas. And then, it is really a question of driving with clarity of thought every action that you're taking. So Sudip, that was wonderful. Thank you for your encouragement. Team, if you have any questions, please do, type in your questions. At this time, it's okay. We will run over by another 5 minutes. But Sudip, if you are okay, we'll take questions.
Absolutely.
Team, the question box is to the right.
No, it's okay. You can keep the difficult questions for Paul. I'm perfectly fine. I'll tell you what, again, I don't want to comment the flow right at the beginning of the day. If you have any questions, please go ahead and cover it. I'll address them. I'll get back.
Sure. Very good. Thank you, Sudip, for your time.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the best. And thank you so much for taking the lead on this. We'll replicate it across. Thanks, Paul.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Sudip.
Bye, guys. Bye. Thanks.